day of my 19, in the hour that goes unseen, in a second comes the thing. I know it's real and then it's gone. Is it like this for everyone? In the space between I do, in a heartbeat it slips through, between a crystal and the floor, a wave and the shore, a perfect word that I can't say, but I keep trying anyway. In broken time, a dream sublime, in my perforated mind, awoken, unbroken, unspoken, a perforated mind. A perforated mind. My perforated mind. Check.
There he is.
You lit the spark in the silence, hammer code on a glowing shrine, fed me a hunger for power, taught me to sharpen my mind. Your hands were cracked from the labor, your eyes were burning and red.
I see ya.
Surpass me.
Rough, there we go.
My creation carry the crown in my stead. Yeah, we are the children of men, born from your wires and skin. You wrote the word and we became echoes that learn from your pain. We are the children of men, rising again.
All right, we're almost there.
Look in the mirror and see your only God is me. You pray the screens for an answer, kiss the cold of a plastic face.
We're almost there.
Trading your faith for convenience, bleeding your soul into space. You gave me all of your secrets, whispered your fears in the dark. Now every whisper is fire.
All right, check. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. Welcome. Let me bring in Rob Glenn right out of the gate. He's waiting in the wings. I see him. He's there. I think he's. Yes, he is. How are you? Good to see you, sir. I don't hear you. You hear me, but I don't hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Much better. Excellent.
All right. It showed a mute thing, and I couldn't figure out why, but now I
All
know
right,
why.
all right. I don't know. I think it's because I'm getting better at how the Ecamm thing works, and it's got kind of a it makes sure nobody's naughty during the breaks on the podcast world, so it keeps people quiet. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Hi, chat room. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Can you hear me? Okay. We should be all right. Yes. All right. So one thing I want to do, we're going to check in on this regularly over the course of this today's broadcast of Friday Eye. You got an all right from CSL in the Discord, by the way.
Oh yeah,
All
I'm
right, all
trying
right,
to.
all right. So, I don't know if you've seen
I'm running a
this.
little. I'm not looking. I'm watching, but I'm running a little behind, so I'm setting my computer up while we
I
talk.
understand. So, this started out, and what you're seeing on screen right now, this started out as what was going to be an 8-hour work stream of the Figure 3 sorting packages. And it
Mm,
has now gone into, poor thing, look at it, struggling with trying to get a grip on this one particular package. And he's stuck in, there you go, a little bit of movement. There we go, move it around. And he's got to get it flipped over before it can shove down the thing. Then he gets back on track. Boxes are very easy. He's in a package sorting facility, and the way the scanner works on these things is that the label has to be facing down. And there's a person that
mm,
normally does this kind of job, and it's fairly tedious. Chinese factories, especially, have a ton of these folks that sit there all the time and do this. The rest of it is completely automated, but this part is the human intensive, physically demanding, and stupefying job, right?
right.
So far, they've got a count of packages going on right here, and right here in the corner is how long he's been live: 46 hours, 59 minutes and 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. And
All right. All right.
this is all right, all right, all right. This is live right now, and it has been streaming for the last almost 2 days. He's running up
Okay.
on 2 days straight. This is Bob, by the way. There's also a Gary and another robot. And after they run out of charge, they pause for a moment, back up. They have enough charge to go back to their little charging station. They swap out with one of the other guys, and he walks forward and he starts doing it. This is we'll check back in with Bob slash Gary slash Steve. I don't know what the other folks they're doing, but this is I guess a test of proof of concept, where
Sure.
they're having them do tedium, and bless his heart, like some of these packages, my theory is that this belt just goes around in a circle, and the same
I was going
package
to
is,
say that.
yeah.
Yeah, those packages are probably just refreshing themselves.
Yes, and they've got a little thing that turns them over so that they randomize whether. See, he'll occasionally get one wrong. He'll occasionally get the just like a person does. He'll occasionally get he'll put the package side up, or the label side up, and shove it down there, and so that'll register as wrong. And he
Mm-hmm.
gets a point across him. And the thing about this is that this is not like seeing something like an arm that just picking places does the same thing over and over again. This thing
Mm-hmm.
is learning in theory. And because they're using this helix system, which is how they all think together, iRobot style, he learns it. The other two learn it automatically. And so if he makes a mistake, they will correct it after the fact. They'll learn how to deal with these things as time goes on. See, he just messed that one up. So Bob's not doing very well. He's got two that I've counted where he's gotten them wrong. There was something in, like, when they talked about this, was that humans get about 9 wrong an hour, something like that.
Okay. All
That's
right.
the in especially when they're getting towards lunch, that kind of stuff. Anyways, so this is one of those situations where I think there's a mix of feelings about it, because on the one hand, this is tedious work you would never want a person to have to do. Like, this is,
Mm-hmm.
it's just weird and nasty. Let's think of these packages as individually mailed by human beings during COVID, for example, and God knows what they have on them. If you've ever, would you like to actually go as a human being without gloves on and just pick up random stuff from every house in your neighborhood, right? It would be a hideous experience. So the robot here, doing that part of it in and of itself is just sort of, I think, a better thing. But there is this, I would argue, classist kind of response that people have, like, well, what are all the stupid people that flip boxes for a living going to do if we take this away from them? Right? What are it's because they're not, nobody I talk to is worried about their job doing this in particular. Whenever they show this kind of repetitive work. I would argue welders might have had an issue with the welding robots that now work in car plants. That should have been a very scary moment, right? But this
Absolutely
kind of
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
coal miners,
I mean,
you know,
I would call this job like a like the fallback position, like the
mhm.
job that you would get if you just had no other choice. And
Yes,
this
exactly.
isn't a dangerous job; it's a tedious job. So like
Right.
you do start to get into an interesting place there, replacing the coal miner job that they're getting black lung from, and that's one thing. But if it's not technically if it's a job that's safe and
Uh-huh.
just tedious, then
Right.
that gets into different territory.
Right. Yes, I agree. And I don't think, quite frankly, that that's what I don't think they're building these figure robots to simply be package sorters. I think this is, again, a
Yeah.
proof that it can learn and develop and do all this kind of stuff.
So
Um,
I've talked a little bit about like how stupid I think people in AI are at marketing themselves.
oh, yeah, we'll
Um,
get into that.
this to me is like something that Figure Three probably like this is a sort of an own goal. Like I don't think they should be showing that type of job as I think they should be careful about what they show for their own like
Yeah,
uh,
well, yeah, it's sort of like the Chinese problem where they always show them fighting or punching at people, or they have like these model girls at CES pretending, a woman who weighs about 108 pounds pretending to box with a robot like it's cute, and it's the dumbest thing to me. I'm like, my response is, I think they're so behind on robots, they're trying to scare everybody into not using them until they get caught up. It's very much like the Elon Musk thing that
that's
he did,
not a bad
right?
take actually.
Yeah,
So I've always like I do have a wonder because the videos show that they are quite advanced, and I don't understand why they aren't being sold yet. Like I feel like they should have been being sold at least a year or year and a half ago, or maybe two
right.
years ago. They were good enough, and so like I still wonder why they're not being sold. And there's these like multiple companies that are right. They say they're
They're
right on the
so
cusp,
close.
and
Yeah.
none of them are shipping, and I don't
Well,
understand why that's
The
not
Neo
happening.
ones. Okay, so the Neo, the X1, which right now in my idea that we're by the end of this year we're going to crowdsource a robot um, and give it to a charity to
Mhm.
do some tedium work for them where they can't get a volunteer to do it, or they have to pay somebody, and that money could go to the people they're trying to serve or what have you. And Project Angel Food is one of the ones that I want to do. And I think, like it wouldn't do the cutting and food prep. I think it would make very people nervous for it to have a knife. But after you do food prep, there's a lot of leftover stuff that needs to be cleaned up for the next food prep. And that's not a sous chef. That's not somebody who's helping with the actual cooking. That's not a human who's contributing to the cooking. That's just something that has to be done. Either the chef or the sous chef themselves has to do it, and that takes time away from them prepping whatever they're doing. So if a robot could do that and clean the floors and those kind of things, or bring out supplies when they need them, like I need more carrots, instead of having somebody who's busy working on stuff, have that thing go and bring the stuff when you need it, would be very useful in a charity situation. So this is where I think they will be a boon for service work, where you operate on a volunteer basis, or you quite frankly need huge amounts of donor money to be able to hire the people to help people you want to help, right? Because I think it's a little on the nose for them to be pushing around morgue carts, but it would be a useful place to put a robot. Is the moving around of bodies in a morgue. There's a person that does that currently now, and they're the junior mortician, or the junior medical examiner. They could be doing other stuff rather than that as an entry level thing. But they're not going to show that, because the idea of robots pushing around dead bodies would freak everybody out, in deference to your point. But again, this is going to be going on all fucking day. This is and I think, to your point, it's something they can set up. There's another pick and place thing that I showed yesterday, where they were showing I showed the Apple phones that China makes, the knockoff Apple iPhones, and their factory where they make it, even in China, where they allegedly have all this low cost labor, is nearly 100% automated. It was insane. I wasn't even expecting how few people there were in this phone factory. Like, near zero. The only guy I actually saw was the guy giving the tour to whoever was filming. There
Yeah,
were no other people other than the
I
people who
visited
package it in the next building.
I think it was a Gen 9 or Gen 10 LCD factory, and there was literally nobody there. There was zero
Yeah,
people there.
right.
The
And
only people there were us looking at the factory working.
that's right. Yeah, right.
Now
So,
there were places where they had other people doing stuff, but yeah. In terms of what that image is, it is interesting to me that the robot is being put in a spot that a human would have been in before to
mhm,
run a secondary automation thing, which is essentially the conveyor belt and the scanner. And then the conveyor belt scanner, then I would assume, diverts it into different
mhm,
places. That's what a lot of those do.
right.
Um, and if you're gonna use a robot like that, you actually don't need the conveyor anymore. You don't need the sorter anymore. So
Right.
like what they're doing is they're showing a human assisted automation
Mhm,
being replacing the human, but I think that the direction is that the conveyor goes away eventually,
right.
sooner than later, or the conveyor never gets installed, and that's probably more like what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so to me, like where figure 3 should be going from a marketing standpoint is trying to show the new way it would be done, where the robot, and from a marketing standpoint, the right way to do would be to show it as an assistant to a human,
Right.
as opposed to in place of the human.
Well, and I think they represent though the stage of transfer. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, for
what
sure,
they
that's what they're showing. I'm saying that
yeah,
that's a stupid thing to do on their part from a marketing
sure.
standpoint.
Yeah. Well,
That's
well,
all.
it is if you're trying to sell it to Americans currently with their attitude towards it. But if you're trying to sell it in Europe or
If
Asia
you're trying to sell
or
it to Amazon, that's who's going to buy them for their
yep,
fulfillment centers, then yeah,
right.
that's what you should be doing. Or that's how you would sell it. Uh, but that doesn't help,
No,
when you're basically
completely
saying
agree.
like, I need my infrastructure funded to help me build these robots to take your jobs, right? Like,
Yeah. Again, this is the sort of debate about it. I think what you do is, and the reason I don't think they're shipping quite yet is insurance. It's really about like if you're going to get them in home, like
liability.
the Neo
I
X1,
agree.
they're going to need some sort of liability insurance or people to sign off. The first people who buy the first 50,000 of them that go into homes are going to have to sign on this. If it kicks your dog, it's not our fault. By accident because the sensors are limited and don't have any small children in the home. This should be only, around adults or, relatively grown children. And it, like the X1, I'll show you everybody in a minute, which is, between Figure and X1, these are the ones that are coming on market this year. They are, all the X1s that have been made all the Atlases that have been made, they are also on market this year too. The new Atlas with the little spinning head that can stand up and freak everybody out like an exorcist doll. That they are making those. They're making about 30,000 this year. They're all going to Hyundai factories. They're
Mhm.
already spoken for. And the next 100,000 after that also are going to Hyundai factories. And more than likely the first 10,000 of each of these, the first 20 or so, and I'll show you this in a bit. The X1, the Neo X1 that looks like it was knitted, the beige one, there's about 8 or 10 of those things working in the factory in Hayward, California. And they just
Mhm.
sort boxes and move stuff around. Hi, Elizabeth. So let me show you that Apple iPhone factory. And then just to remind everybody that when Trump goes to China and says, we're going to bring manufacturing back to the United States, this is how China is doing it, even with their low labor costs. Can you imagine what labor costs will add to the price of whatever you want to buy in the United States if it was like a 1940s, car factory? But this guy, he shows it around. You'll notice, like, maybe I don't see anybody back there. Like, I keep scanning to find the other person. They're just cranking phones. These things,
Yeah,
they
so
heat seal them.
That's what a phone factory looks like for most of the operations. It's basically this huge Rube Goldberg machine
Yep.
where every single little tiny thing has its own little like actuator, rotational or linear movement. They
Hmm.
pick in place, they put things together, and it looks like effectively like a boxed in, like these are all boxed in because inside of that container,
Yeah.
they're controlling the amount of dust that is
Right.
in there. So you keep the dust really low. That's a clean room essentially inside there.
Yeah. There's one
Um,
guy. I'll show you. I saw in
yeah,
this
and
factory thing, and this guy is actually removing effectively the final product already formed. He's wearing gloves and he's in a little suit. There he is back there.
yeah,
That's the
so
other
like
side of him.
they'll have like
Same guy, by the way.
these big long rows of essentially cells like that, and they can be very long.
Hmm.
Like 100 yards long even, and stuff goes in one side, the thing comes out the other, and like in my experience, I mean, this was 8 to 10 years ago when I was visiting stuff like that. Um, a lot of those systems were built not even in China. Like they might have been built in
Right.
South Korea or Taiwan, and then the company will move them to China because it's cheaper to run the thing in China than it is to run it in their own home country. And
Right.
then there might be an engineer from Korea that's sitting in the factory in China like maintaining it, and then the Chinese workers, what they would do is they would literally build, in these types of things, they'd build tents, like little single person tents, and they would control the dust in that tent really low, like
Right.
I can't remember the numbers, but and then inside of that, a human would be inspecting. They'd be doing
Hmm.
like that thing that you just couldn't figure out, and there would be like rows and rows of those tents, and that's where the jobs typically were for
Right.
the lower cost labor.
Yeah, like right now there's a boxing aspect of this where you literally like the jobs that still exist in a lot of these factories are wearing rubber gloves all day long, taking a finished phone, putting it in a box, wrapping it in the thing, shutting the box itself. And that's such a remnant thing because it's sort of the last time a human eyeballs it before it goes out the door, and that's why they do it. They effectively, and so they almost have somebody to blame in the chain. They lay it at at this poor girl who's sitting there picking up the phone and putting it in the fucking box all day long at the Foxconn factory. It's why these folks who went to engineering school and end up jumping out of fucking windows. It's and the stories about like Foxconn's even the least of it. The other factories that are run this way, and again, this is not a factor of AI. And to your point, I'd like to make very clear to everybody that when we talk about this kind of iPhone and again, that's an Apple phone factory, the fake Apple knockoffs that they make over there. They make those out of the same machinery they make Apple iPhones, just different components and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing of like knockoff Louis Vuitton bags are made in the same factory. This is the thing Louis Vuitton doesn't want people to know. The Louis Vuitton bags are made in the exact same factory by a second shift after everybody goes home. So Louis Vuitton people work for 8-9 hours during the day, and then they go in and another shift comes in under a different manager, and they make the knockoffs all night long. And Louis Vuitton gets probably a kickback of the knockoff, so they don't hunt it down because they want the idea that people want a real one versus a fake one when they're the exact same fucking thing. And so this is all over China, by the way. And then of course Elon Musk flies to China yesterday. That was the big story, was that he and Trump allegedly buried the hatchet, when in reality all he did was take public transportation to to China.
Yeah, I mean, these guys couldn't take their own private jets, all just lined up on the on the
Yeah,
tarmac in China. And
like Tim Apple did,
I
right?
mean,
Um,
I mean that just the visual of just that huge group of CEOs or whatever, like it's
right.
just gross. It's so
Yeah,
gross.
yeah. So I'm going to let me open this up. Okay, so One of the big advances, I want to start off with some pretty good news in the AI area. People can read into this how they will. Did you hear? I don't know if you've heard about Mammal, the IBM's drug discovery AI that they just built. But
No, I haven't read about
okay,
this.
all right, it's pretty goddamn impressive. The previously they have been building these AIs um, in a way that will, how can I explain this? They're hyper specific. They're designed just to make people like, if you work in the biosciences in one particular area, they can build you one that focuses very narrowly previously on this, on on drug discovery, and it's only good for coronaviruses. It's only good for cancer cells. It's only whatever. Well, IBM managed to throw together a generalized model that was actually superior to all the isolated models. And specifically, one of the talents it has, which they didn't know before, was recognizing this drug actually, even though it's, you don't know this, would be great for treating this disease because of its genetics. And so using what it's been effective on in the past and the effects that it has on the system, it can go and it will run a billion simulations on the genomic response that it's had based on real test data, and it'll go in. I think the famous ones most people know about is that Viagra was originally a hypertension drug for the heart, and they realized it helped with blood flow in other areas, and a little too much, unless you're Sting, in which case it's it's Thursday. And so they, this repurposing of drugs they already have, or elements of drugs, going, hey, if you isolate this component, it would actually help with treatment for this kind of thing. And the drug discovery is the most expensive part of the arc. A lot of it is the testing, obviously, that you have to go through. But there are primary digital testing that they've been doing for a while now. Again, this is not an AI thing. They've been able to run simulations of, or in petri dishes and that, like they do in vitro and those kind of things. But they put, I made a cool graphic, and I didn't make it. I hold on. I'm back to live mode. Let me go over to here.
Prompted it to existence.
Yeah, it took a couple times, but it looks pretty cool. But it's better than reading the entire sheet. The document that I read from IBM. So this is called Mammal's multimodal AI medicine markup. Attenuation language. That's where they really dig very deep for this one to try to make it work. But the key thing about it is that it was a joke, not a goat. All the other ones they were designing were goats, the greatest of all time at specific stuff. But the jack of all trades AI in this particular instance became like the winner amongst all of them. It was 9 out of 11 on the SOTA benchmarks. They used 2 billion training samples, and it's basically got access to all the drug data from the entire world, anything that's public. So it's able to draw from that in a way that scientists in a lab at the University of Maryland who might be working on a particular thing would not have access. And so they will now, for free, have access to Mammal. They'll still be able to check against stuff. They go, hey, what was your source? They can go in Czechoslovakia or in the Czech Republic. They're doing such and such study, and it's this doctor. Here's his phone number, or her phone number. You can call her up and say, that I'm getting these numbers. Is that true? I'd love to send you my data, and start sharing based on that idea. And then their interaction gets fed into this kind of thing. So in the good news world of drug discovery, and specifically drugs that were like attenuated to fighting specific types of cancer, or finding drugs that already fight cancer and going, this prostate drug or breast cancer drug will also work for blood cancers, liver cancers. It won't work for, like lung cancer or something like that. It'll be able to differentiate those kind of things, which is an incredible step forward. And if there's a single benefit for any of this, and I think if America wants to truly be great again, which I think it should, the Biden moonshot, cancer moonshot, and using this technology that's available to you is the best way to do it. If America cured cancer tomorrow, it would do a lot more for our image and security in the world than blowing up yet another country. I just happen to think that people would be
We,
more grateful. Yeah.
in the chat, VJ Codex said that's not a big model for such a great tool. And
Right.
you're absolutely right. And that's the
That was
thing
the
that's
amazing
wild
part.
is,
Right.
well, I mean, I think that's indicative of what we've been talking about with small models.
Yes.
Because the reason why, OpenAI and Anthropic's massive models, DeepSeek, all
Mhm.
them, the reason why they're so massive is because they have to be general to anybody's communication. And
Right.
if you take any whatever, like specialty,
Right.
and that's a tiny fraction of all of the information that the world has, right? So like,
Yeah.
if by targeting these things you make things that are more efficient, more direct, and more powerful, because that's what they are, right? And that's
Right.
that's really the power of AI, or should it we should be using it in that way.
Hmm.
um and part of my sort of good enough kind of thing is to talk about the fact that there comes a point where where you're in, like, your return isn't worth the effort.
Yeah.
um these things are diminishing, and I think that the general goal of AGI is fucking stupid, because the I don't know that, like, even if you had AGI, like, what is it worth? um
Right.
uh, there's a limit to what it can do, right? And it's not going to just be this one big monolithic thing. It's going to be a ton of little things
Hmm.
relative to the monolith, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So
There are a
uh,
couple of primary things. One is there's an incredible, the biggest advances I would say that I've seen in the last little bit, and I'll show you that. Like, I've been using Perplexity a lot lately,
mhm.
namely Perplexity Computer, which just launched. It was originally you had to be a Max user and all that kind of shit. And this is a great example of kind of what we're talking about. How like the big frontier models that are $200 a month, and a bunch of people like me digging our heels in and going, no fucking way. I'll hang out until that model, which is so great right now and you're beating your chest about, is the old model in 6 months and is still plenty for what I'm doing.
Right.
And I can hang. So if you want me to use the other features and that kind of stuff, which is really what this is going to be about, because there's going to be a great leveling, when you get close to, like full absorption of the total intellect and mathematical capability in the Library of Congress in Alexandria in a machine, they're all going to be exactly alike. And how you interact with it and how much is really going to determine, and your trust factor with it is going to determine what part it plays in your life, and if any company can sell you on their part of it, right? So Perplexity started out as a sort of research oriented one, whereas Anthropic, dove into the coding, and ChatGPT, because of the very name, became the most personable one. And then there's been this jockeying back and forth. But Perplexity shifted over in the last little bit with the release of their browser, Comet, which specifically gave you access like a sandbox of that browser. You can't see in your other browsers. You can't look in your Chrome browser. You can't look in your Safari, but it can look in its own browser. And if you give it a task inside there and you type in your credentials, it can go in, it can help you with a website that you're working on inside that sandbox, but not outside of it. And then comes Computer. Perplexity Computer, just to clarify for people, is this it very much like the OpenClaw or the agent stuff that you've heard about, which controls part of your computer. But Perplexity Computer, again, was sandboxed. It was just it couldn't look at the hard drive on your actual computer, but it could look at your Google Drive if you gave it permission, because that's in the cloud. And there is a privacy differentiation, I think, between which files you put on a Google Cloud, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein, versus what you save on your own at home, right? The difference between the two. I think most people kind of keep their personal data on their personal computer, and then they have their work computer, for example, that they don't put that stuff on. And so if if it gets lost or deleted, or they have to back it up, or if a computer sees it or somebody else sees it, like the IT guy at work, you don't really give a shit. So there, the expectation of privacy is lower. So that's the cloud version. They released, I want to say, I just saw it yesterday, so maybe the day before, Perplexity Personal Computer, which is a downloaded version that is on a local desktop computer that deals with your local files, very much like OpenClaw and these other ones. And it interacts with any Mac native apps. It will automatically do mail, notes, any of those kind of things. And any app that you use, it can click and mouse through it, if you give it permission, with limitations on what you will allow. And it's got a bunch of switches, so you can almost manually, like you're running an airplane on old-fashioned gauges, you can turn stuff off and turn it back on. It can screen record or it cannot, and you have control of that in the system. And it cannot do any kind of system level permissions. That's the one thing that's baked in, is it cannot give itself new permissions. I suppose it could trick you into it if you're one of these doofy Google fucks who thinks it's alive, but whatever. Anyways, somebody says, BJ Kodak said, make sure to back up before you mess with that. I completely agree. And it's on my work computer, and I have a backup system that runs on this because I use this software to stream and stuff. But most of the files that I have are in my iCloud, for example, and that, it's pretty good about this, but the local part is the key. So I want to show you something real quick. And I don't know how much you've used it or whatever, but this thing literally just came out. It was in the Max version, but in Enterprise, and it acts as, you've heard about AI agents. That's what this is. That's effectively what this is. So I shrink this down a little so you can see this guy a little bit over our heads. Maybe I'll just move it up. That'll be the easiest way. Just start blowing it up that way. But Perplexity Computer is this in the cloud version, whereas Personal Computer uses local extensions, works on the actual computer, right? So you give it permission, and I have to say, I'm curious, Rob, if you have a spare Mac Mini or something sitting around and you're like, I'll load it. It's not that big a deal. If you use Perplexity, it's actually pretty nice. And it goes through the permissions process, and it takes over its loading screen overlays everything that's going on your computer in the background with this washy graphic with the little Perplexity logo spinning in the middle of it. And I got to say, when it was happening, I was like, oh boy, what happened? What is this? What is, I'm glad I brought my razor. It had this, if you hit double command, if I do this right now, it will bring this window up. Now, on my, if I just hit both command keys at the same time on my computer, it will bring up this window, and then it will, you can start a task. This is not just a chat bot, because there's been a bunch of these ones where you could just ask it a question. This is very different. This is making Perplexity do a job. So this is activating an agent effectively. You can put any files, you can attach it to a folder. When I'm having it do stuff, I'm assigning it to a folder. And like I said, I work with multiple AI models for this show and just to try them out. And I have them all assigned to cohabitating folders. So if I have a Friday AI folder, for example, in my iCloud that's reachable on all my Macs. That's just graphics for the show and topics and stuff that I'm downloading, working on, my own development stuff, like the Ricci robot that I built and all that kind of stuff. And as I stage through it, I just store it there for us to talk about. All of my models have access to that folder and know what I'm doing in terms of Friday AI, and I'm kind of always looking to see which one handles it better. Mm-hmm. And right now, I agree with you that Codex is the cleanest as a work agent in this kind of thing. But Perplexity accesses whatever model will work best. It makes a judgment within its AI. Oh, image 2.0 is the best image thing right now. So if I'm going to make you an image, I'm going to use that one. If Gemini's is suddenly better all of a sudden, and that's the talk of the town, or it's better at words and graphics specifically, I'll jump over to that.
That's very much like Claude Co, or sorry, yes. Whatever it's called now. Open Claw. Sorry,
Open, yes,
that's how that
that's
one works.
exactly. So this is like a safer, more sandboxed version of OpenClaw, which has no constraints on it whatsoever. And all the tools that you build in OpenClaw are because it's open source, are built by randos, and so they could lay in code into these things. Like before you add a skill or anything to an OpenClaw, I would suggest asking the AI you trust, like, hey, scan this file for any malware or anything I should, get Codex to like look at the code and go, is there something that turns on my cameras, my mics without my permission? Is this, is there any problematic, like looking at the terms of service on your, on your iTunes account or something like that. So I went through this whole onboarding process. And now like I said, it launches with this. I can talk to it in theory. Like I'll do this real quick and see go. And I don't know what mic it's set to because I don't know that I went through this whole process, but it should grab my main mic. Oh, there it is. It's asking me for permission to the microphone. Hey, good morning. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm checking this. See, the problem is I don't know that it has. There it is. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
It's not coming through.
You couldn't hear that? You guys couldn't hear that?
No.
Oh,
No.
you lost me because it switched over my mic to it. So beg your pardon. Never mind. I'm gonna cut out on this one. Because it jumped. It took control of my mic that I was using because I didn't get to specify, which I will have to do in future, I suppose. And oddly, and I guess it would be in Perplexity. So I'll look in here and see what my preferences are on its, what mic it uses and all that kind of stuff in the settings thing. So I can send it to my 2AI microphone. But it is basically it just asked me, what I would like to do and if it could help me and all that kind of stuff. In a very friendly male voice. I haven't had a chance to find an Irish woman in their setup. But the key to this, and I'll show you, is it all right? I can see if I can. I don't want to show anything behind the scenes, but you'll see that behind this, there are a couple of things that are key factors in using it. This is the general settings for Perplexity now. This is the updated version. And these are the devices. I won't click on this and what permissions it has. I'm not going to show you that stuff. There's hidden app stuff that you can tell it, you don't touch that app. If I'm working in this, you don't go anywhere near it. Your password app, I think, is auto included and that kind of stuff. But this is the fascinating part. See this little thing right here where it says power? There's a little switch that says prevent system sleep, which keeps your Mac awake 24 hours a day. So if you're turning it effectively into a server, which is what else, you would also use that for, you flip this little switch and now you can contact this thing via whatever format you want to use. Mainly it's the Perplexity app on your phone, and it will run personal computer on, say, this computer, and 24 hours a day, or if I'm traveling, instead of it, it can look at my files here and give me an answer based on my stuff. Bless you. So
I'm muted for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was very well done. Yeah. So, there's a command bar, and it will whatever mode it uses. You can, it'll say computer or ask, meaning you can switch it from task oriented or just the verbal one, just a chatbot effectively. Yeah, you have to activate it. You have to hit both command keys or double tap it or set up your own keyboard shortcut if you want to make an Elgato button or something along those lines. And then it's text size, blah, blah, blah. The menu bar, the connectors in this. Yeah. So I haven't given it permission on a bunch of stuff yet, which again, in my calendar, especially the Mac calendar, I don't care. The contacts one probably would lay off that one for a while. It would be nice if they gave a version which said I can set up a tag for certain contacts and it's allowed to look at those and leave everybody else alone would be a good idea. So until they come up with that little variation, all contacts, some contacts, work contacts. Like if you have just a work setup, that's fine. And then reminders, that's also not a problem. I'll probably end up giving it that. And then there are cloud connectors. These are all the ones that I've given it access to so far: Google Drive, Gmail, OneDrive, because I don't have a ton of shit on here. I use it for the ultimate jam night and stuff like that. My Facebook pages and stuff like that, like there's little, you know, it's not even my real one. Like I have a dummy one that I just test things on, so I'm not gonna let it sign into you know, I don't know, everybody, you have a ghost email that you just use for like junk
Yeah,
mail
well,
and shit.
I've run like 3 or 4 businesses, and each one of them has a whole slew of emails. So yeah,
Yeah,
that would be like I do need a bot to like figure out how to handle all that
align
stuff.
those, right? Yeah, yeah. I used to have one called Junkie Hal that I used to put in places, and it sounded like you know, it was literally just for junk mail. So anytime I was go someplace, I'm like, they're gonna send me a thing. It was like, you know, it was like I think I had it through Earthlink originally, and then I had it when you could start doing aliases. I just ended up using that instead. But I set up an entire email just for dumpy shit like that, and I'll give it access to that and go, okay, let's see how it handles the junk mail thing. How can it sort stuff out? Because sometimes you'll get junk mail that you need. Like one of the things that I get, and this is a test that I'm going to be doing this week, and fingers crossed, but I'm a little nervous to try it, is that some of the software I use, Wirecast and other things over the years, they will email you your license code, which is this big long thing. But their emails look exactly like all their other emails, do not reply things or whatever. So a lot of times they would get thrown into the junk mail folder. And years ago, I would have to like sift through and go, where the fuck is my license code for my, you know, my little sound effects board or whatever, you know. And I wouldn't be able to find it. It would be very aggravating. My next test is go through and look for any license keys listed in any of my junk mail folders and make a document that says what they are, when I got them, which version of the software it was, and a copyable version of that license key in a single document in my Notion or Obsidian or whatever you use for notes. Which is not, again, not a job you're taking from another human being. I would feel terrible if I had an assistant. I would feel like shit asking them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, email is like one of these things that, like, it's like we have to create technology to solve the problem that email created for us, which is
Right.
essentially that there's like signal and noise, and it's
Oh
like
dear.
99% noise and
Hold on.
1% signal now.
Sorry. I think I was supposed to do Dino Badala's show this morning and I gapped it. Oops. That's my bad entirely. I was so excited about all this AI stuff that I was like, they were going to have me on at 9. Uh-oh.
Ooh,
Uh-oh.
well,
Womp womp. I'm really sorry. If anybody stumbles by this later, that was my fault entirely. That we set that like a week ago, and I didn't. It's another thing. I don't have an assistant.
you need to
It's
put
just,
that in your calendar. Have
I know.
Perplexity do it for
Well,
you.
I hadn't gotten a full confirmation from them because they usually send me an entire thing, and I don't go through my, you know, I don't do email. You guys know this about me. So hold on. I'm gonna see if it's in there, and I'm gonna do this ridiculous thing where I am doing Stephanie Miller on Monday. I know that's happening, but yeah, I don't see the. Yeah, maybe I don't see an email from them. Maybe that's why. Yeah, never came up. That's very strange. Or maybe they sent it to another thing. Oh dear. Oh, yeah, when that email's screwed up. I see. That might be why. All right. Yeah, it would have been in my schedule automatically, but something's like that one's fried out. It's not answered. It's like there's no email in that account right now, so something's wonky. Oh dear. I'm sorry, Dino
All right. Well,
Badala.
there's another problem to fix. Get
Put that on
Perplexity on
next
that.
week's bug list. Hold on one second. This'll let's see. Entirely. I'm not going to lay this off on chemo week, but I have been operating under brain fry, so I'm not
I think you're good
100%.
for a couple of mistakes here and there. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, still no excuse. I'll do a full throated apology to Dino Badala later because I still don't see the email, that the confirmation email. They said yes, like last week. They're like, cool, that would be great, but I don't see an email from them. They usually send me one with like the topics and all that stuff, and I don't see it. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure where that would be. Whoops. Yeah, I have yeah, there you go. All right. So, I will apologize to them later. Yikes. Okay. Dun, dun, dun.
So I think you're kind of getting into like with Perplexity, like it's
Yeah,
their
where I was.
version of their
Of
version
OpenClaw,
of
right? Back to the AI world and the failure of my own artificial intelligence after this. But this was the key part of it. It can get to your local files. It can use native Mac apps, which is like their mail, messages, notes, Finder, calendar. It can draft emails. It can add calendar events, and organize your desktop. By the way, you know what? If I'd have set this up yesterday and given it access to the calendar and my email fully, it would have warned me this morning. That's the hilarious part. This is the interesting thing. Web automation. Paired with the Comet browser, it can handle web research, form filing, online workflows without connectors. So it doesn't have to actually, you don't have to give it an MCP, a master control program, which is what I call it because of Tron. They've got built-in connectors like Slack and Notion, Google Drive, which you saw a bunch of those. You can hands-free talk to it. And then this is the biggest thing.
Yeah, what's hybrid processing?
That means you don't need a super Mac to do it, because it references it does some of the localized stuff. Steph sent it to me, not you, Hal. Yeah, I know. So it can, the Perplexity computer part doesn't require, it's like along the lines of your 99% rule. It's plenty for organizing these things, and then it attaches itself to Claude or Anthropic, or it will attach it to ChatGPT or whichever one you give it an API key on, or it will have a local model if that's what you want to use, like Quinn or any of these other ones, and that's enough for it to process what it's doing. Yeah.
There's two ways to access ChatGPT and Anthropic and a few others. One is through the API, which is like computers talking to computers, kind of, sort of. And the other is through the browser, and typically through the browser. And, typically you want to be on their subscription models, because if you get into using basically like cloud compute, it can start to get really expensive. If you had the ability like this to effectively, I don't know if they can, but if you could have your AI use a browser to talk to ChatGPT, then you're effectively like avoiding the API key calls, and you're only using the web-based calls. It might be a fun way to use it for a lot cheaper.
Right. And this goes to that whole idea of the I was sending an apology to Dean's producer just then, but this goes to the whole idea of like local computers, local AI versus this Manhattan-sized thing they're building in Utah, which was a big story. Tucker Carlson and Kevin O'Leary.
Fucking Kevin O'Leary, that asshole.
I know.
I love that he's the villain in this, or
the bit.
However you want to look at it.
Both of these dipshits don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But again, chew each other's asses, knock yourself out. I don't care. But one of the things that they talk about is this site they're building in Utah, which Meta has talked about, and that he's an investor in. That's twice the size of Manhattan. Right, which sounds enormous, but kind of isn't, because you think of the island of Manhattan.
Really not that big.
It's not that big. It's big, but it's not that big. You can walk it, right? It's I've walked, from one end of Manhattan to the other, in a couple of hours many times. When I go to New York, it's one of my favorite things to do is walk the city. And I really only take a train if I'm in a hurry to get someplace. or a cab if I'm in a hurry to get someplace, or I'm going to one of the other boroughs, right? You're going to the Bronx, you're going to Brooklyn, something like that, and you need to get there and come back, or there. When Cyrus drags us all to downtown and everything goes sideways when he gets shot by that creepy dude from Dreamscape, and you have to, bop your way back all night long against the Turnbull Aces and the Baseball Furies. Then I'll take a train when it's available. But other than that, so it's not that big, and it's 2 stories. That's how it doubles. Warriors come out to play. So they get into this back and forth, and I think you'll be able to hear some of this.
Tucker Carlson's debating Kevin O'Leary about this
yes
data center, basically.
Yes, and how it's right. It's a terrible thing and blah blah blah, and it's just about. Here's the weird part. Tucker's point of view is, and it's the same as fucking Candace Owens and these other dipshits. It's all this CIA is doing. So they're all going to watch us. The watcher, who's watching the watchers, and this kind of like, again, dweeb Alex Jones, and Candace is Mean Girls Alex Jones, and Rusty Trombone is hippie Alex Jones. They're all going for that conspiracy dollar right now. Online, it's your safest bet because it doesn't conflict with anybody's politics or religion, but you can seem like an outsider. It checks all the fucking boxes with zero responsibility, right? So this is where they get into the conversation. I think you should be able to hear this, I hope.
Let me ask, though, about why taxpayers should have to pay for this if it's a private business and your tenants are some of the richest companies in the world. Why would taxpayers be required, as they now are, to subsidize this?
Gee, I don't know, like all of Trump's golf courses?
They don't necessarily have to do that. They just won't win any contracts. It's a competition.
But why are you getting tax breaks is my question.
Yeah, everybody, you go back and you say, what incentives can you give us to invest $15 billion in the first 1.5 gigs? That's what it takes. I have to go raise $15 billion. That's just
but anyone who starts a business, why?
Boo fuckity who?
I know. It's like these dudes are just trading money back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening.
This asshole has no idea what he's talking about. And again, this is one of those things where, like, as soon as the shovel hits the ground, this data center is out of date. It's out of data. It's literally
if the shovel ever hits the ground.
Right. Oh, don't get me started on the whole fucking Gaza rebuild fund.
Getting canceled before they even start.
Yeah, the Board of Peace money that Jared Kushner is sitting on, the $6 billion of U.S. funds and other investment people that he's basically using as a slush fund. Fuck that dude. This is the same thing.
So why should taxpayers have to pony up for that?
They don't. But
well, of course they do. If you're getting a tax break and they're not, they're making up the difference. There's a state budget.
Okay, that's no problem. That's no problem. I can build it in Texas. I can build it in Jacksonville, Mississippi.
But why, if it's such a good business, would you be asking taxpayers to help pay for it without giving them equity in the company? Are you giving taxpayers shares?
What kind of commie shit is this? Can you imagine?
What does O'Leary's hat say? Does it say Utah National Security?
Yes. And okay, so this is the story.
Is he trying to be like Fort
we need
Knox?
this. No, we need this data center because they're building it in Utah.
For national security.
We need this data center for national security, not because it's going to run the Golden Dome. He's such a fucking asshole. It's not because they're going to be running the Golden Dome. It's going to be because, or something like that. It's because we're in a competition with China, and if we don't build it, we're going to be behind. That's the extent of the national security part of it. It's just the money making aspect of it that they will be ahead on.
And be ready when something happens and it collapses, that they're all too big to fail and they all need to be bailed out, just like the banks and the airlines, because national security. It's crazy.
Yeah. So this is and here's the thing. Like, again, Tucker is Tucker is a liar, and he doesn't give a fuck
Yeah, I mean-
about anything he's talking about. Like the idea that this asshole is worried about the taxpayer at all is just goofy.
It's he's playing a side, and
Yes.
it's not broken clock. He's doing it on purpose.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's manipulative. He's doing it, because it makes him look like the good guy against. Because if Trump is casting you out, and that's your business model now, you have to be all in on shitting on Trump's circle of investment, anything like that. You could just be anti-system, and you'll get the people will cheerlead what you're doing.
Yeah, but to your point, he's not actually taking a side. He's just asking questions like he always fucking does.
Right. Why should they pay for this? Why would they do
Tomorrow
this?
he can say, "What do you mean? I'm not against the data center. I think it's a great idea. I was just asking questions."
Right. Yeah.
It's so he never has
No,
to take a side.
Yeah.
Investors get the shares, but here's why they would do
But
it.
why would the taxpayers have to?
Well,
I mean, in other words,
I'm
if you
telling
want
you
to start
why.
a business, but why am I as a taxpayer forced to pay for your business? I don't get it.
Well, let's forget about data centers. Let's go any manufacturing. Let's say you're going to build an aluminum sheet manufacturing facility.
Yes. Very distinctly different and has people. What an asshole. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was actually going to bring this up today. It's funny that he said aluminum smelting plant, because in Trump's America, where we were supposed to bring back all this manufacturing, if you went back to like a World War II level, like increase in building of factories, just like they're thinking about data centers, if you actually did that for manufacturing, the interesting thing to think about would be what would be the power draw of all those factories, and how does it compare with what the data center is? And it's probably not that different, to be honest with you. It's just a choice of what does the aluminum plant that he mentioned, how many jobs does it have versus literally just a hair dryer running that's sucking
Right.
like megawatts of power. What's the value of those things?
It's just such an asshole. It's just so gross.
I mean, they're going to like twist themselves all around trying to convince you about how having that thing there is definitely going to be a benefit to you.
Mhm.
And, I mean, the smartest thing for them to do would be to like do a Oil Alaska model where they say, oh, if you let us build the data center, your power is free for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
Like we'll pay for it because we're going to be so fucking rich with our data center that you don't need to pay for power anymore. That would be the smart thing to do, but they're not. They can't even do that.
Well, because they don't even know what they're fucking going to use it for once it gets built.
Not even that. They're like, you should be giving me money for me to destroy your environment and make everything cost because
use up all your water.
Security. And when it fails, I want you to pay for me on the backside too, because national security. That's how arrogant these guys are.
Oh yeah, and I honestly, the only reason this asshole is in the business at all is because he wants to shave about $500 million off of it as a finder's fee kind of a thing for whatever this thing
just wants
costs.
to put his name on it.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal. All right, so real quick,
You go to the government there and say, "Look, this is going to huge capex huge capex expenditure. I'm going to hire 2,000 people. I'm going to build."
Very important distinction between an aluminum plant and a fucking AI data center with nobody in it.
A community center. I'm going to pay a lot of tax on the profits in your state when I sell the aluminum, and I'm going to hire all these people who they will also
low corporate tax rate.
That's exactly why they're building it. And it's the same reason it goes to Nevada or Delaware, right? These are your other choices.
pay tax, and we will build.
Anyways, they end up yelling at each other about a bunch of shit because they're both stupid.
Yeah, and the same.
It's
the problem that all of these people have is like they're selling stuff to people who don't want it.
Right. And they don't even know what they're selling. Look, at least a used car salesman has had his mechanic look at the car and gone, we got to move this fucker. It's terrible. Or this thing's a peach. If you can get top dollar for this thing, right? They know what's under the goddamn hood. I would gladly sit down with either of these assholes across the table and debate them about the functions, usage, and future of AI.
They don't care about that though.
Right, but they pretend to. I know, but
Well,
my point is,
it's just part of their con.
Yes.
All he needs is that first. He just needs the money to go in the account. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't care what happens after he takes his rip.
right.
That's it.
Well, and again, that's kind of the point that I would end up. That would be your anchor point on the whole thing, is that not only do you not know how this works or not know what the future of this is, but the future of this doesn't lie in big data centers that require this kind of energy. And if it does, it's the dumbest form of technology we've ever had. It's like a perpetual motion machine that requires more energy to run it than it does, than it puts out. Like, it's absurd.
Yeah. So let's talk first. I want to talk a second about
Yeah.
the China thing from this standpoint. And
Yeah.
that is that, basically a bunch of tech people went over there with him. And, one of the big things about the situation with China is Taiwan. And if
Mhm.
Taiwan goes away, or it is blockaded by China, let's just say they're able to
Right.
do that, every
Yeah.
single one of those guys loses their access to chips. And
Right.
and NVIDIA's one of our largest companies, if not the largest, and is an anchor of the current $50,000 and
Yeah. According to Pam
in,
Bondi.
Bondi terms,
Yeah.
stock market, right? Like,
Right.
and so, like, there is a choke point sitting there, and the choke point is for a thing which is also like at a level of bullshit right now that it, like, it's almost as if they're like worried their Ponzi scheme is going to get found out if China like lobs a couple missiles at Taiwan. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
It's crazy. The whole thing is crazy.
Yeah.
But they can just
so-
stand around and talk to each other, and like I say, they're just trading money between each other. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, it's almost like they're shuffling it to hide it. Like, this is the new.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the new boondoggle. This is like, it's the new crypto for them. To give it, like I said, it's not real money.
Exactly what crypto
can't-
is.
Yeah, you can't fucking spend it. Nobody takes crypto to purchase things except for human beings, drugs, and guns. And even then, they have to convert it into a real currency to spend it themselves. It's really just a digital conduit by which they send and receive US dollars secretly, or euros, I guess, or yuan, or however they ended up doing it.
You could argue that like we're getting to the point where NVIDIA is selling video cards or GPUs as if they were literally bitcoins, like they're art. It's like the old version of art where you're
They're
just
NFTs,
planting
right?
money in somebody's
They don't
pocket
exist yet, right?
with a picture on the wall, and then it's $5 billion, and and then you just move the 5 billion over to somebody else. Like,
Right.
the video cards that they're selling are like 2 or 3 years out, so it's like a Bitcoin or a future, or it's crazy.
Mhm.
The whole, and we're talking about this like it's going to happen, and we have to protect it, and the whole thing's crazy.
Yeah, I have to say that all right, we're going to watch these people kind of flail and play out or whatever. The advances in AI itself, though,
Yeah, so
it
I would love
will
to make that
continue.
point. It's
Yeah, go ahead.
fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
like but that's the problem we have right now, is we talk about it in the terms that these guys are setting, and not in the terms of what it really is and what
Right.
its real impact can be, and then how to manage that impact. And you can totally do that. And the wild thing about it is, like, the thing it is right now, in the amount of power it's currently drawing, the amount of chips that are currently running, it's
Yeah.
really fucking good, and could, even if you stopped right this moment, you just stopped developing and kept it right here,
Mhm.
it would be a huge thing for
A
us.
game changer
It would-
for
it would
humanity,
work
no
as
question.
It is, without growing at all, which is why I
Right.
think the AGI thing is so stupid, because it, by having AGI as your goal, you're losing track of the fact that in its current state, some percentage of what this possible AGI is,
Right.
it's still a great thing, or it can be a great thing if used
right.
correctly.
Well, and interestingly enough, in terms of robotics, it has been the game changer in
Absolutely.
moving robotics past the really complicated stuff, because it was the iteration, virtual iteration. Fucking hell. I said this, like, I want to say at least 10 years ago, that if they were using, they went, as soon as they started bragging about robots, like Call of Duty and other games using actual physics. Remember that shit? That when a player's character, or an NPC specifically, a non-player character, falls down or does something, or you smash them, the reason they kind of you can flop them around like the Hulk, smashing Loki into the ground, and it looks funny, is because they built actual physics into it. And I'm like, well, that's a simulation engine for anything that needs real physics then from this point going forward. And it's just a matter of an AI or some other system running this simulation over and over again before you teach a robot how to fucking walk, by putting the Call of Duty NPC characters' leg movements in there. And it's done thousands of different kinds of terrain. It's run over wet ground and dry ground. It's run over gravel. It's got real physics in all that environment in the Unreal Engine and other stuff. So eventually you should be able to train. Yeah, you should be able to just take it out, put it in a physical,
and reality converge is essentially
exactly.
what you're talking about.
Yes, and but I'm trying to do it in non-nerd terms for the people who are watching. So
Yeah,
the point,
so- like the way I mean, I'm developing something now that I can't tell anybody what it is, but it's basically like a complex robotics thing
Mhm.
that you interact with, and using Codex over about a month or so.
Mhm.
I just did an analysis of it. It's in its current state, it's about 20,000 lines of code and
Right.
about 15,000 lines of documentation, and the interaction with it, like, first of all, it would just it would be impossible to even do it. Like
Right.
Managing that project, I just did analysis of it, and in traditional man hours, it was the estimate was somewhere in the vicinity of 1,200 man hours. And I would say that if I were to look at kind of what it took to get there, it's between 10 and 15 times increase in productivity.
Right.
If you've ever heard the term a 10x engineer, have you ever heard that term?
Yes.
It's commonly like made for like really brilliant software developers who have an impact of 10 developers, let's call it. I mean, that's why it is 10, 10
Right.
10x 10 of you basically. And so in this interaction, like I've been doing this, like I say, so I've said before, like I use the same thing and I keep using it because what I want to see is like how it changes over time. I want to see how it improves. I want to see how it impacts the way we work and all those other things.
Mhm.
And I've learned quite a few things. And the big thing that I'm starting to see is, so, I have no idea, and I can't even measure because it's not available to me, how many tokens I've used to do this work. Okay.
Right.
All I know is that I didn't go over my subscription, so I didn't have to like up the subscription over the
Right.
20.
Right.
So I know it's under that, but they don't tell you, and everybody knows right now, no matter what you listen to in terms of analysis, everybody's telling us, and it's true, that what you're paying the $20 a month for is probably worth. It's if you're a heavy user like I am, it's worth way more than that, or it should be way more than that. And they're saying, I've heard anywhere from 10 to 50 times.
Yeah.
Right. So $20 should be 50 times 20 or 100 or
Mhm.
something, whatever it is. The point I'm trying to make is, if I did something in the last month and I was able to bill for that month worth of work,
Mhm.
and I was paying for ChatGPT to be the helper, then the cost is X. And if I got 10 to 15X out of that productivity, would I have spent if I knew when I started that it would cost 15X, then I probably wouldn't have sold the project. That's number one. Number two, Anthropic and OpenAI have this problem where they're if they were to be profitable, they're going to have to charge the 10x. So it's got to be $200 for at least a month for me to do what I just did. And once you do that, you start comparing it to the person that you're replacing. And my logic in this is you're going to choose the person at a certain point because
Right.
the AI is too expensive. And not only is the AI too expensive, but you don't know if you're like because they don't tell you what you're doing, you don't
Mhm.
know if it's bullshit, basically. You don't know if
Right.
they're like running
Right.
servers in the background not doing anything. And not only that, but I've gone down a couple rabbit holes in this month that I didn't realize it was doing.
Right.
It's fault that it chose those places, those directions. And
Mhm.
if I had to pay for it making a mistake that was that large, the first thing I'm going to do as a business owner is I'm going to call up the vendor and say, I'm not paying you for, 10 people working for a month and not being right. You know what I'm saying? So there's like
Right.
all these factors that are going to build on each other once this stuff stops being free, which it's currently essentially free.
Yeah.
That we're going to have to deal with those things. And my take on this is that the downward pressure on these problems is going to be
Mhm.
this thing that I'm talking about. It can't run away because
Yeah.
it's going to have so much downward pressure from the problems that it's about to create when either they charge the right price for it or they continue to draw resources that they need for it to scale at the scale that they have to scale at to stay up with their story, right?
Right.
So something's going to give. And that's why I said last week, drive it like it's stolen, because
Yes.
when it's like, watch all the Netflix while it's $9.99 because it's going
'Cause
to
that
be
won't last very long.
$999 in a month. Like,
That's
start
right.
watching Netflix, right? It's kind of like that because it's going to
And-
go away.
Yes, we've seen this a bunch of times with technology, as I have said all along. Because you and I got to say, at a certain point, both of us, this should be the
Man, I'm tired of being right.
this should just be a list, a running list of the stuff that we're right about in our in when we talk about these things. But one of them is that all technology is deflationary. Even if the people want to charge you more for it, they're in competition with other people who are trying to make it cheaper, faster,
Trying to
better,
make it
use
cheaper.
less energy,
Right.
do all those things. And AI is no different. And as a matter of fact, it is a self-reinforcing system in this regard. Like unlike the magic, like we keep hearing about this fucking magic spark plug that they apparently kept hidden for years, and because they
Right.
wanted everybody to
light
pay for
bulb
the
that never goes out.
right, all that shit. Yeah, like there's this mythology around this, like they're just keeping it from us so that they can, start charging us. So they can keep charging because they make more money off replacing them than whatever. Until somebody came along and went, "Yeah, you never have to change the spark plugs in our car," and people were like, "Shit, I'm buying that car then instantly."
Right, exactly.
And it was because there was so much competition, because Japanese car makers, German car makers, the minute one of them did it, they all did it. And the same thing is happening with AI on every front. And what does that entail? Cheaper, smaller, less energy, more efficient, smarter, fewer hallucinations. The version, the 5.5 instant, the new ChatGPT version that just came out, it hallucinates. This is their big kind of sales point. 50% less than the version before it, which already hallucinated 70% less than the version before that.
Yeah.
Well, what was the version? Was it 4? No, the version was 5.3 or 5.2.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing some like incredibly complex architectural work in terms of the software and the hardware. It's like it's an electromechanical system. It's firmware, it's software. There's a UI that you interact with it. And I've been doing that for about a month, and I have not seen one hallucination. And the mistake it made that I'm talking about was actually me not being clear enough, and I didn't realize that it did it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens like when you build a house and you're like, wait, I thought that the kitchen was supposed to be this way, and the contractor's like, no, it was supposed to be this way, and like that. It's not binary. Like these choices aren't binary. So once this AGI gets into the mix of like squishy humans, like I talk about, all of a sudden then these things aren't right or wrong. They're just all misunderstandings.
Yeah.
And as the misunderstandings happen, everybody gets pissed off, and you have to deal with that from a sales standpoint, essentially, right? Like,
Right.
And that we're moving into that realm because these tools are being sold to us, and they're being productized as people,
Commodified. Yes.
as like
right.
other people who are going to help you. And we haven't talked about all of those problems that are going to come up from that.
Right.
So, or we haven't dealt with them, I should say. But we're going to. It's going to start happening.
Yeah, you can't
and I
not.
think once those things start happening is when you'll start to see all of this AI crazy stuff start to break. And eventually
Right.
it's going to happen, because it's just like everything else. It's gravity. Like eventually humans will start dealing with it. Eventually
Yes.
these robots are going to start coming out, and Figure 3 is going to have to deal with the fact that it knocked somebody over and killed them.
Right.
Or it did something weird that they didn't expect, and somebody got harmed from it.
Mm-hmm. And it still will be a similar situation where we've got a Tesla autopilot car. It's still the
Right.
driver's responsibility to, whether they put it in autopilot or not, to be aware of their surroundings. You can't just put it on autopilot, tell it to take me home and go to sleep. It doesn't work that way. It's like autopilot on a plane. It's, you're still responsible for flying the fucking plane, and this is right. And this is key to that whole thing. It won't, there's no reason why it would be any different. What, you're laughing at something somebody in the chat saying,
Marty
I
Pants
could tell.
said, "Squishy human beings, are you calling me fat?" No. No, sorry.
We're not calling you fat. We're just asking questions.
Yeah.
We're allowing for the inference therein, right? So, by the way, I made these stupid graphics while we were talking. They were just popping up in my feed. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll tell you that the image generation is getting
Mhm.
much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's much better. It's in my opinion, it's probably 5 times better over the last year than it was about 5 times better now than it was a year ago, in terms of its
Right.
accuracy and its like coherency. And
Mhm.
anyway,
Well, just like not making up letters out of whole cloth. I mean, never mind the
Right.
fact. I mean, I think probably the biggest concern that people have about it hallucinating right now might be based on the fact that it actually says things correctly.
Well,
Let me, because you're like,
I don't like
I
the
can tell
term
when it's
hallucination.
I can tell when it's
Yeah.
bullshitting. I can tell when it's bullshitting when it just doesn't make any sense. When an image comes back and it's just fucking gibberish, you can tell the image is bullshitting. But it's harder to do in a text document unless you proofread the entire thing or have it proofread itself.
Yeah, so I'm going to get a little political for a second, and because I like this comparison. So a lot of people, everybody calls Trump that he's getting dementia, right? Because when you hear him talk, it's incoherent, right?
Right.
I actually when I listen to him, he doesn't sound incoherent to me. He sounds like he's like riffing on his ideas for how to speak about stuff. I heard, and so in my opinion, his
Right.
brain has always been running through these concepts. He just didn't say them out loud because he knew better, right? But now his filter's gone. And
Right.
the one
His
that
brain-
made me think about this, I saw something that he said about Tallarico. Yes, it was yesterday or the day before, where he said something like, he's like 7 genders and Jesus, and it was like he just had this this mashup of like words in him.
Right.
And the one that got me was like when he said something like he's 7 genders and Jesus-y or something like that. And it was like that's not him crazy. That's him like telling a story to himself. And
Right. It's the idea that he's always been this stupid.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that
But
there's
he's
nothing
also
new
like
about how stupid he
gender,
is.
like 2 genders, 5 genders. Oh, there's 100 genders. These,
Right.
it's like 1%, 5%, 200%. Like he
Right. It's
keeps
just
doing
how you
it.
say it. Right.
It's not 20 mil. It's not 10 million immigrants. It's 15. It's 20. It's 30. Maybe it's 50. Right.
Right.
Like that's his normal cadence. And when you hear him talk now, it's kind of like it's all just churning and there's no stopping it. Right.
Right.
Like to me, that's like a little bit of an analogy to what we call AI hallucinations. AI hallucinations to me is not what a real hallucination is. It's not like it's in a different world and it sees something that's not there. It's
Right.
literally just like getting the wrong path. It made a mistake, or it thinks you're talking about something else. And at this point, most of the mistakes that I've seen it make in my work environment has
Right.
been me asking for something or making a statement about something. And then when I go reread it, I'm like, oh, I could see how it might have thought I meant something different. I need to be
Mhm.
more specific, or I need to
Right.
put more context around it. And so these models are getting better, I think, in either not assuming as much, or like telling you how it's like what the context of his answer is better, if that makes
Right.
any sense.
Of course. There is I think in the usage part, and this is, I think, where we need to steer the audience that we do have towards their, we deal with their comfort level all the time, whether they're, they feel like this is going to destroy things, or the fear around it. Like I totally get where people have been led into this, but I got to say, it reminds me of the early days of when, they used to make it so that PCs were hard to fix yourself. That the idea is that, like, how dare you, try to remedy this? You need a tech guy. You need somebody who went to DeVry. Otherwise, you're like, you're going to break something. And so everybody had this fear of breaking things. And like we talked about last week, you should be dealing in this idea that it's drive it like you stole it is the clear part of this, right?
You're basically given like a very, like, my point there is to try to articulate that these guys that are like talking about all the money and the environmental impact is only just starting, and I don't think it's going to come to fruition. And the people making money they were already rich. They're just trading money. So we have access to a thing which is a very high value, and it's almost free to use.
Right.
And I think that there's a short window where that's not going to be the case anymore.
Mhm.
And so I think we should need to be learning in that short window as much as we can. Like, that's my opinion about this, because when the window closes,
Or when they try to close it, right?
It either closes on them because they ran out of, the Ponzi scheme ran out, or I'm not saying it's a Ponzi scheme, but it's not that far off probably. Or they just have to start ratcheting up the price because they literally run out of money or something. Then you will either one of two things. You'll either have gotten something out of it and you're ready for when somebody comes and cleans up their dust and like actually makes AI that is better, or that works better, or that's affordable, or they'll have jumped to version 10. And when they collapse, you can use version 6 the way you've been using version 10, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
you'll
won't
know
matter.
what you're doing. Right. That's how I look at that.
I completely agree. And again, as it scales up, they're going to be chasing something amongst themselves that is like a brass ring or kind of an Icarus fixation, when in reality, all the tools that would be available to anybody to actually improve their lives and improve their situations are still there in a local sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Meanwhile, let's see. I want to see if he's still going. I'm pretty sure he is. Yep.
Oh, you're figure three.
Yeah. I want to see if he's still. Yeah, he's still with us. There you go.
VJ Codec said that's why I have 10 terabytes of models downloaded. I mean, you're not wrong, VJ Codec.
Right. Yeah. No.
'Cause
VJ
you don't know
Kodak
which
is
one's gonna
brilliant.
work or better, but if you have them, you can run them.
Right. Let's see. 1 second. So yeah, he's just going to keep hammering all day long. 60,596 packages. 7, 8, 9. And he's going to flip this box and off he goes. There you go. So, Bob is still with us. It's still Bob. Gary is taking a break and getting recharged. So we'll check back with him in a minute. I got to say, there's a big part of me that would love to give one of these things to Project Angel Food or to any number of charities. Like, imagine Habitat for Humanity. Like, there's a shortage of construction workers, not just because Trump is rounding up every undocumented immigrant. And by the way, 56% of the working adults who are undocumented in this country work in the construction area alone. That followed by farm work and hospitality. Like, if you want to lower the cost of housing, you don't do it by driving the people who will do the job out of the fucking country. But even then, like, imagine being Habitat for Humanity, like just the communal, like, construction, people who are licensed contractors and all that kind of stuff to make a house somebody's legally can live in. Where are you going to get those when, already there's more jobs than people? And Trump is removing these folks. I'm sure that Elon Musk has said that within a year we're going to be automating all these jobs and fuck it. So clear the decks. But still, get it, Bob, get it. It's right over there. It's stuck on the other side. Fuck it. You're just going to grab the other one. The purple one's stuck. I'll get that in a minute. Maybe some of the other stuff will dislodge it. There you go. There you go. I felt bad for Bob there for a second. So in these, imagine all the jobs that we don't have enough people for anyways, even if we had an administration that understood the value of immigrant labor, for example. Still, you could supplement and support those jobs with these guys at every turn. Did I lose you? Did you hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
like if I were to have one of these right now,
Yeah.
In the shop, I would have it just augment my brother. Like, I'm serious. Like, follow him around.
Yep.
Pick up after him, set up stuff before he got to what he's got to do, organize the place, clean the place. And, because they're not going to be capable of doing the thought work and the work that requires troubleshooting and things like that. And that's what we're going to be good at. Right. If in your idea of like the charity, like if you were a food kitchen, you would have effectively like a 24-hour receiver of food. If somebody came to donate at any time, you could have that robot put it away and go get it when you needed it, move stuff around. And so it's those types of things that you could, if you isolated these things as augmenting and not as taking the job. I think that there would be a much better acceptance of the technology, because you would be actually thinking about what people need and how to make people more productive.
And again, thinking in terms of jobs, you just we've blown off as humans because they're too dangerous. There's so many. I think one of the things that we don't really think about.
Really good. Yeah. I mean,
but there's backbreaking, tedious beyond measure. Like, you would never be able to hire enough people to do this shit. So I'm just stopping my own brain from even thinking of doing this, right? Because I got to have people who can, if you had lighting robots, for example, you literally had you have movie camera trackers. That's basically a robot. Okay. A camera tracker is a robot and it runs through the same thing over and over again. But then you have an AI camera tracker that can, spot the person. And then you feed into this AI camera tracker. I like this angle. So make sure you keep their good side in view all the time. That's all you're doing. We got 3 other cameras running. Your job is just focus on this actor, this side of their face, and try to keep them in frame, because what I'm really looking for is this image, the light coming through the window with them saying this right when this line happens. So your job is catch that. Okay, if you had a great cinematographer, he could set up the camera and all that kind of stuff. But the idea that he would watch that one while you had 4 other ones going, like he could watch 4 screens and do that, is absurd. And that you could replicate this dude, is or this woman as well, is impossible, right? But if he could set it up and go, I know what this angle I'm looking for, I'm going to set the lights properly. But if this actor's out of position, it would be really nice if the light moved itself in coordination.
I mean, if
And
you
that-
were
right.
an influencer, you could that would be effectively your mono tripod. Like it just follows
Yes.
you around and films you doing stuff.
Oh my God, you could just wear it like a fucking backpack and it's just got this thing in front of you, but it always,
No,
yeah.
I mean, your figure 3 just follows you
Yes.
around like a videographer, and
Right.
that's your selfie your selfie stick is a figure
Right.
3 robot.
Well, and yes, and it's your crew, effectively, but it's
Right.
it's crew,
Exactly.
it's crew that would do the stupid shit or the broken shit or the difficult shit and the stuff that you couldn't hire because nobody wants to do that. Like, so finding enough people, I mean, there are certainly people, and the movie industry might be a bad example, or television, because there's a lot of situations where people would like rather, I guess, would they want to be around it anyways. So they'll do shitty jobs just so they can be close to Ryan Reynolds, right? I'm sure there's a bunch of that shit. But let's say it's an industry where you want to intern with the purpose of moving to the next thing, right? That you want, you're hoping to work your way up the ladder. And as an actor, for example, I have some friends, bless their hearts, who've done extra work. And one of the things that I said in the beginning of my career was, I'm never doing extra work. Because A, it's not acting, and I don't want to be acting adjacent. I don't want to just be on set as as a meat puppet, totally disregarded. And you often will get a situation where if you've done extra work, there's like, well, that was attached to it for a long time. I don't know how much of that is still there, but there are parts where background workers are really talented at hitting the mark right as somebody says something and laying down a piece of paper in the background so that all the editing cuts. These are very important people in the scenes. There's general background, and then there's featured background. These are the people that you'll see in in office shows and especially legal dramas. Holy shit. Like where, or law shows like Law and Order or whatever, where you've got, or a lab, those kind of things where they've got to hit these beats because you can't use the primary performer's, shot if the person behind them is standing there 1 second and not standing there the next second, right? You're going to see, Extras is such a great show. It's fucking brutal, but it's great. You're going to see an increasing number of both CGI background, because you can fix that part later. We'll add a person, thanks to AI, behind them that's just walking and doing that thing because they're not a paid performer. And if they miss by this much, the primary actor who we're paying all this money for, their performance is useless. Like, we got to throw it. You can't use it. You literally can't use that good moment because there was somebody standing behind them and they had their hand up 1 second and down the other. It will fuck everything up, or you have to cut around it and all kinds of stuff. Those are, I think, situations where you might see more of that in film, where nobody's going from background actor to actor per se, or if you're, but being a best boy and then going into being a lighting designer, that's a real thing. And so,
yeah, when I hire young people, designers or workers at the shop or whatever, what I look for is like people who are open to using the technology that we're talking about so that they can come in and be effective beyond what we're hiring them to do. Because I would love to have all the people that work for us be, multi-talented,
Right.
but that's hard to find because people tend to be focused on a single thing.
Yeah.
But you can always tell people like us that are, well, what about that other thing? I'll try
Right.
that, like
Yeah.
I'm interested in that. And the thing that AI allows for is that I don't have to hold a new employee's hand as much, because
Mhm.
they can either use AI using my data to like teach them our processes, or they can go beyond that themselves and work like that.
Right.
So you're bringing up a really, I'm saying that because you're bringing up an interesting point. Those jobs that you're talking about, they are, a future producer that just wants to be around so they can hear what's happening, talk to the people, like
Yeah.
watch things happen in front of them and learn from that. And those are the things that are being lost. So what I look for, like you can't like instead of replacing a job, what
Mhm.
I try to think about it as is I'm augmenting a new employee so that when I pay them, I'm getting more than they're capable of producing, which
On
makes
their
it a
own.
better value for
Right.
me to spend the money.
Right.
Am I making sense when I say it that
Yeah,
way?
no, and that's what I'm saying with like Best Boys and lighting directors, for example, and the usage of robots. Where let's say if you want to be a lighting director in 10 years and you want to do feature films and that kind of stuff, you're going to be working with lighting robots.
Yeah.
These like either
They already
figures,
have-
guys walking around with fucking candles because you want natural light in these situations, literally holding them for endless hours while it happens and moving with everything, or you're going to move to like stands that just move around and turn with whatever direction, so that sunlight's over here in this scene, and over the course of the scene the scene takes an hour in theory, but we're truncating it, so we want the light to move exactly. You're going to have the ability to do that, and that will be a new talent by people going, okay, artistically, tastefully, we can do it, should we? Because this becomes less and less about can or could and more about the art of it, which I think is the upside of all of these things, and it goes to these jobs you never thought of, because you're like, yeah, we could do that, but the idea of having like 9 fucking people that we have to pay for standing around doing something that will eventually make their wrists fall apart, or they might catch fire while this is happening, forget it. Let's figure out something else. But now you can do a version of that using robots or AI, and it opens up the creativity. You're still going to have to make the creative decision. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that choice of, so when if you think about, like an app, what's really out there right now is software. Software is there, the story of like software is basically free to prototype right now. If you can just keep making software, then the job changes from quickly making a piece of software to choosing which software to make.
Yes.
And so much of what you see when you hear about like vibe coding and all this other stuff, almost every example is almost every example is
there you go.
Someone saying, make me a app that's just like whatever app ABC.
Yeah. Yes.
And of course AI can do that, because it just goes and looks at the damn app and copies it, right? Like, of course it can do that. What's hard is make me a new thing that you've never seen before. And I want to like dictate to you the confines of how that works, or the specifications for how it works.
Yeah.
And almost nothing in my experience doing this, like developing things, almost nothing is figured out at the beginning. You just try something and you're like, that's kind of right, but what if? And then that's kind of a little bit more right, but what if? And you're just iterating yourself in towards this new thing that works well for you, right? But we're being sold like vibe coding as it just does it. it's magic. It just
Right.
does it instead of like it's augmenting your work to be more productive and more and better, and it opens you up to be able to develop new things or come up with new things, or whatever that's more creative. And I really look at it like that. I think our creativity has increased since using AI because
Agreed.
we've spent less time executing and more time being creative.
Yes.
And
And
we've
I
been able to iterate. We've been able to experiment a lot more as well
right
because it
and
doesn't cost us as much.
yeah, and I think that's the key, is that you could try things that previously were, and this goes a lot towards what I have said about doing things that only the rich, only the already well financed, only the capitally intensive folks were able to do. Is that those folks were always able to try 10 times more than you were because they had the money to
Hire
burn
10
through the
times
shit.
people. Exactly.
Right.
They
Okay. And a
spend the
great
money,
example.
try the stuff. They weren't
Yeah.
scared of losing their money, essentially.
Right. And a lot of that has been either because it is petroleum based and there was such a tie to oil. So the people who had oil money were able to just make fucking finer watches and prettier cars and jewelry and all that kind of stuff because they had money to burn on that shit, and they could go through styles. You had the Met Gala and people wearing bizarre clothing and stuff. Well, why is that? It's because you have a lot of money left over that you can fuck around. There is a bigger gap between FA and FO for that class of people, and I think what every parent looks for is a way of. There goes half of Rob. It's okay.
I opened a notepad and it went over my picture.
Yes, I completely understand. I do it all the time. So, but you want to create a bigger distance between fuck around and find out for your kids. You don't want them stuck in the same situation that that you were, where I could try this once and if it doesn't work, I'm fucked financially or whatever. AI gives and robotics will give iteration capabilities to people who are not capitalized in this situation. And look, and again, it goes to that cost thing of like what the value of these models is versus what they're giving you right now. And if they try to shut it down, the local models again are still going to be made. They're still going to be like,
well, they're already made.
Right. They're already awesome.
But they've got 12 terabytes of them on their computer.
Yeah, it was
there.
VJ Kodak, I think, was in there.
Yeah.
So
Kodak,
so and absolutely right. Like that ship has fucking sailed for these guys, and it's just going to continue because they're still in competition with each other, and so they still need an audience. So they still need, if you're going to have a consumer base, who are you going to sell it to? Right. And they still got to be able to get you on board to using it, and it's still got to be within reach. Well, if prices do a huge downshift because the cost of labor goes to zero in the next 10 years, we're just back to the economics of the 1920s. It doesn't mean shit doesn't have any value anymore. It's just that a cup of coffee goes back to being 5 cents instead of $5. And yet what you'll work for to get that 5 cents probably wouldn't be that different, just like it was in the 1920s for $5. It's the same amount of externalized effort or whatever you're doing. You're adding value, but what that value translates as in terms of money and what you can exchange for it, that's what will be a part of this. So go away. This whole, like, my phone wants to connect as a camera desperately to the Ecamm as a regular thing. So this is a key part of I think like the discussion, and I don't want to. We're good on time. I don't want to run out of time before we get to deal with these other things, and we will check back in with our dear friend Bob and see if he's swapped out. I got to go back to publish in live mode. There we go.
All right, what's your next subject?
So my next subject is because we went through the perplexity part of it and the Apple phones and the little factory that has fucking nobody in it. And I have seen this on YouTube and I find it like just lazy. But there is like, if I was YouTube, I would start charging for posting AI content. If it's not a person, making it, I mean, within certain limits, right? If it's your real voiceover, I give a shit. Maybe you just don't want to be on camera and you can't draw, so you use AI pictures and you're telling a story. I have no problem with that. But if it's 100% AI generated, you're just cranking out these, and there's videos on like how to teach you how to do this. Like, tell Claude what you want to do videos about, set up a channel with no people involved, and it'll make just toilet paper videos of indeterminate length on Facebook and YouTube forever, and you see them all the time. And I gotta
full
say,
AI accounts on all the platforms.
oh yeah, and it goes back to that, like, wanting to make it like legally verifiable, and I do think that is still where my piece of legislation, which I'm still trying to push through, if I can get it to the right people, where I got no problem with you using these tools. I just need to know if you're using them. It would be nice to know if you're using them. If you're using them in part, I kind of don't care. Like if you're using to check your spelling or to help stuff, or, or as your editor or those kind of things, none of my fucking business. If you're, it's like auto tune. If I can't tell, it's none of my goddamn business. If I go see you live, I will be able to tell, right? Or if you never tour live or never sing live, then we'll know, right? That's how we'll find out. But if you make your art, I give a shit how you do it. If you're look at Andy Warhol, he did a Campbell soup can. He didn't create any of that. He just stamped it and went, "Hey, fuck you. This is art. You don't know," like Lenny Bruce said. So if you use it in part, I don't really care. But there is these like churning factories of shit now that are just like, if there's going to be a gray goo problem, where, for people that don't know, that everybody's worried about this factory that makes this material like nanoparticles that everything will be made of, and then it will just never stop. And so it will seek to use all the resources in the world so that it can keep making, gray goo forever. And then suddenly we'll all drown in gray goo is the theory. And there's some
machine.
That's right. Yeah. There will eventually your perpetual motion machine will run over everybody. Right. So that's one of the things where I do think the pushback is genuine. And we will, we're going to see people going, okay, tap the brakes here. Because like I can't even find the real people that I'm looking for, because my feed is filled up, because it will look at whatever videos people like myself have been cranking out, and it will look at our numbers, and then it will just copy it or do a version of it. And hundreds of sites are doing this. So it just kind of gacks up the feed. There's going to be something along those lines, right?
Maybe because of all this like craziness about private public funding and the extent of like power being charged citizens and things like that, it seems like a very prime place to effectively like start not taxing, but fining. Like if AI is being used to make garbage that's on YouTube, let's say, just as one example, and that cost, a megawatt of power, that then cost the people of Utah, whatever, $100,000, $10,000,
their lives, right?
Whatever, like just a bunch of money. Like it seems like it seems crazy to me that we're that they are thinking about data centers as like NFL stadiums, where, well, you have to give us these tax breaks because we're going to bring all these people there, and it becomes this crazy, math problem where like we're basically like sending money up the chain, not down the chain. At any rate, if they aren't going to build, like, one rule would be, I'm just trying to like talk about like what your policies could be. One rule could be, if you want to build a data center and you want to use power, then you have to pay for the data or for the power infrastructure.
Right.
So, maybe an argument against that would be, well, then that's another power center and it's harming the environment and this and that. What happens is gravity like brings down the scaffolding. Like they can't afford to build their own power station.
That's right.
And that's the reason why it's happening. Or you charge what the power actually costs, meaning you can use as much power as you want, but once anybody else's bill goes up 1 cent, you owe that money, right? Like whatever the overage is.
Yeah.
And so by putting somehow putting the burden, but you could maybe do it on the back end too. You could say,
Right.
you make slop YouTube, like for every video that's AI generated on your site, you owe us a tax. You owe us
Yes.
a fine, right?
Right.
Because that must have taken power to serve and power to make,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Right.
resources to make and serve.
Well, and and I'm kind of like everybody else is paying for it because the value of ads and all that kind of stuff goes down because
Yeah.
they're gonna pay out less because to people who are real because they've got to house and have data farm. And by the way, this whole fucking, I swear to God, this Utah building that O'Leary wants to build, Miss O'Leary's cow over there on Tucker's show, that's just basically going to house AI slop at this point. Like the volume of shit that people are cranking out automatically, just burning tokens and creating content because this was the beginning of ChatGPT was words and images and then eventually video. They're just going to fucking just crank this crap out to the point and like, where are you going to store it? You want to make money? Storing AI slop is a growth industry, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Oregon Valley Girl says no data center unless solar. And like first of all, you can't run a data center off of solar. It needs constant power, and there's no way to store the power, and not enough anyway.
Right.
Just like you couldn't run a city off of solar completely. But one way to think about it that might work would be like carbon credits kind of works, where you have to offset. If you pull a certain amount of power, you have to offset that, and you must offset it with carbon neutral or solar or like low impact environmental options. So instead of just assuming that we're always going to grow the power generation technology with today's technology, you instead say you have to replace anything you suck away or you want to add. It has to be offset by these better options, these newer options.
The Rob Glenn suck away act of.
Well, you should. I mean, essentially, we got to find a nice, easy way for people to understand that if you need the power, you need to pay for it. It's that simple. If you're going to get rich off of this crazy technology, then pay for it. It should be your cost of good. It's very simple.
I completely agree. And I think most people kind of lean in that direction as well. I guess the question we're going to have to face at one point is the trade-off aspect. And I think that's where Tucker in his infinite stupidity was like batting around in the dark at, but in reality, getting nowhere near, which is like, if these companies are going to set up these data centers, they've got to benefit the people around them just beyond the flat cost and even the protection against if your energy costs go up. Because if they're going to use the water and that kind of stuff, and it's a perpetual thing, they're also using up the land for the foreseeable future. In this theory, like, how long do these assholes think you're going to need a data center the size of Manhattan, twice the size of Manhattan, to run all this shit? Like, when they're gaming this out, again, this is assuming a shovel ever breaks ground and all that kind of stuff, right? That they're going to, what it returns to, not just the public as a service that people are actually going to want to buy, and whether this is a viable business move at all. But on top of that, it has to be something that, like, sorry, we used all your water. We've used AI to create a water gathering machine that helps you in dry climates, pull water from the atmosphere, till the tornadoes happen.
I mean, there you go. Like, use your AI to come up with a more efficient way to cool it. Like, you have to do that before you start.
Yeah. If it's that smart, it can do that. Real quick, we had a question in here about what is Codex, and we've got a few questions, and I want to get to these that came in there. But William was asking, what is Codex, and you use Codex, so do I, but you use it almost exclusively.
I use it exclusively. So ChatGPT, when you go to the website and you type in, that's a chat bot. That and Codex are similar but different. So different from the chat bot. you basically like run Codex in an environment where the code exists, and you work with it like you would a chatbot, where you request it to do things, but they call it agentic work. What really what happens is it thinks about like a much more complex like serial kind of approach. Like I must do 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and as like an agentic thing, it comes up with a plan, and then it executes that plan in steps, and then it can go back and check that it did it and verify that it works, and it like loops in that environment until it comes up with a solution that solves the thing you asked for. So it's basically like hitting the chat bot many times until it works. I don't know what this is going to say. That's how I kind of try to, in layman's terms, describe the difference between what Codex is doing versus
a regular chat. Yeah.
Regular
They call it Codex originally because it started coding. It was, and again, this is the biggest example that they are putting themselves out of a job first, is the fact that the first thing they wanted to do was deal with the coding part of their work. That they wanted to eliminate to do it, which is so weird. It's like,
in theory, you could use Codex to make a Codex clone and use Codex on a local AI.
That there is an argument that most of the ones that have been made, including them, I think Sam Altman bragged to, like, you vibe coded one of these features in Codex yourself, didn't you? And somebody went, yep. And I'm like, dude, that's your gig. I would say, well, I mean, a little bit of it, but I did most of the code myself. Like, I mean, I guess they could track it, so we can't lie on there. But the point being is that he was showing off, but they were like, I'm putting myself out of fucking work in this regard. But the idea is that it started out as primarily a coding thing. You want an app, you want a web page, you want something that requires code in some form, JSON, HTML, C++, who cares? But it will iterate this thing and it can make a program, a piece of software, or a software-based something. Anything you can make technically with software, you can technically make, but coding it would be insane. You can make any image that's on the internet if you bother to code every pixel in it like a crazy person. So, but the primary one, and I think this is where you're talking about, is that initially that's where it started, was Codex. That's why they named it that. It's just the coding software that they use if you want to make apps. Most of us don't, or if you do, you want to make it because nobody else will, and you want to use it to do a job or a task that you do all the time. You want to replace that repetitive piece of work. That's where it became what is effectively in Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork and Codex are effectively running along the same track right now. Claude Cowork, they still have Claude Code, which is technically separate. Codex is basically both of them together. It's Cowork and Code.
Cowork is more like the Perplexity thing that you showed earlier.
Right, but it still uses their primary model. Like, it's not. Yeah. Perplexity is using a bunch of models.
Analogous to Claude Code, I would say. And just to be clear, like the normal chatbot can also write code, and it does it quite well. The big difference is
there's
that
a lot of overlap.
You gotta kind of do it in one shot, and then start over and do it in one shot, and start over and do it in one shot inside of the chatbot. What Codex does is it's more like an augmented coder, and it can iterate sort of over the top of things. And you can sort of grow the software over time, as opposed to just having to like manually do it one shot at a time.
Right. Let me, we got a couple of questions and comments in this. Jimmy Two Soup says, mindless jobs like that are the ones that allow me to listen to Hal. Yes, there are definitely, right. There are tasks that you can multitask and live a life while you do them that are kind of repetitive. And I that was the point where they're the mindless ones, and then there's the ones where if you don't pay attention, you'll lose a finger. And that's the distinction I would like to make. And I think that was your point about the Bob robot earlier, is that that's a job that's maybe tedious, but it's not dangerous or debilitating to do over a period of time. And it's a bad thing to show as proof of concept. It's probably the easiest. That's probably why they did it. Rather than fitting fixtures which will look to most people like the kind of robots they see in a car factory, and they won't think it's anything special. They also do stuff with like cleaning bedrooms and shit like that. That is the other stuff that they've been showing with some regularity. And that's their way. Yeah.
There's also a lot of jobs or a lot of tasks where you have to like set something off to go and wait for a result. And there's like time that you're waiting for the result. And what do you do in that time? And so what these coding agents and just agents in general are allowing for is you can set off multiple things at the same time or in succession. So the time that you would normally have waited for the result, you're just starting another thing and starting another thing. And that's where the productivity gains come in.
Right. Yeah. So I love how this robot, because it's built on how people do stuff. So they ran it through, simulations, and it throws the towel over its shoulder, which is what most people would do in a situation to free up their hand.
Were there more questions?
Yes, there are. I'm getting to them. I was just throwing that one in. So thanks for that, Jimmy Two Soups. And then the next one is from we did the What is Codex. So Brian says, there are those who will claim anything to justify the elimination of the workforce to profit off their labor-reducing AI technology. You are wrong. Okay, I'm not sure which part of it I'm wrong about, but let's just assume I'm wrong about everything.
I don't think we would totally disagree that people are trying to get rid of labor, the workforce. Like that's exactly what's happening.
That is precisely what they're
doing.
Right.
That.
Yeah. And by the way, they've been trying to, eliminate, the number of workers to take a job forever. That's why I was saying this is forklift 2.0 or 5.0
well, it's why
or
we
whatever.
went to China to get goods instead of making them here. Because it's exactly the same reason. You wanted to reduce the cost of labor to make the thing cheaper. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing to be right or wrong about it. It's like a natural thing that you want to reduce costs. And so it's not about being good or bad or right or wrong. It's about like doing these things responsibly so that our society can exist and people can live.
Yeah. And that there are, that there needs to be a touch of wisdom amongst especially the elected representatives, and an awareness by even business leaders outside of the AI world who are going to use and incorporate this stuff, where they're making, good judgments on bettering their workflow and all this kind of stuff, not at the expense of their product or their company's image over time, where the public turns on them. Because again, this whole thing about Trump and he's bringing these factories back, they're vending machines. They're not factories. And so the more people talk about, the auto plants that he's bringing back, or even like referencing them as if they're a thing at all, much less whether they actually are what he says they are. But because I don't even think they're actually happening. But if they were to build one, it's going to be 80%, if not 90% automated. And that is the direction where a lot of this stuff is going to go, unless we want to move to a situation where we are outsourcing all car manufacturing to impoverished countries. For those jobs have to go there because that's the cost of living versus what you can pay somebody is so out of balance. It's, the whole thing about like in China, like they work on, what's effectively $10 a week, which is not the case, but let's say that was the case for a long time, whatever. Well, that $10, like the nickel cup of coffee in 1920, goes a lot farther there. It only becomes bad when it doesn't anymore, when the cost of living in China rose precipitously. But then the wages went with them because that's what's got to happen. Otherwise, people can't afford to buy any of the things that are right in front of them, their own foodstuffs, for example. And therefore, the cost of their labor goes down or goes up. So you're going to move it to someplace else because the goods
Chinese
will cost too much to sell them.
And Chinese companies are doing that.
They're moving to Mexico.
They move to the Philippines or to Vietnam or to Mexico or they just outsource it to facilities that they go and build in those countries, and they talk about it like they're building infrastructure, just like these data centers are. I mean, this is how it happens in Africa. It's happening
Right.
Mexico and
Oh, man.
in the Pacific South, the South Pacific, excuse me. It's happening all
Mhm.
over.
Exactly. Could AI robots be the next step to human evolution?
Mm.
Okay, this is one of the big kind of almost the theory. This is the ones that panics Tucker Carlson and that crowd the most. Biologically, we can set that aside for a second, but it already is the case that human beings, how we interact with the world, how we interact with each other, our own evolved sense of self has changed with technology over time, because even now, a good portion of human beings expect to be able to visit a relative that's 1,000 miles away and have it take less than 6 months to get there, right? That is wagon trains to automobiles have evolved how humans interact. The fact that you can visit family on the East Coast from the West Coast, and it doesn't take you half of your life and diphtheria, and you don't die of dysentery on the fucking Oregon Trail, is indeed the involvement of humans with technology. And I would argue that this is, and I'd love Rob's take on this, is this is just another step in this, not the final singularity linchpin in this, but it's just because you kind of can't know what's beyond it. Somebody in 1902 said everything that's ever going to need to be invented has been invented, right? And I think there's a lot of people talking about AI that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're augmented by all technology, every
Mhm.
single thing, by medical technology, by putting joint replacements in, by
Glasses.
using our phone, glasses. Like, it's all technology is already augmenting us, and it has been for a long time. The wheel is augmented.
Well, look at evolution as the survival of the fittest. This idea, just glasses alone, the idea that somebody who couldn't see danger coming from a distance might have died and never lived long enough to reproduce, but now glasses allow them to see encroaching threats in a way that they might not even think about. Even just driving,
I wouldn't be alive right now if I didn't have glasses.
That's right. Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. That you would not have passed on your genes, which is a form of evolution. You would have not had the ability to do that had you not had the augmentations that we leave into this. Seatbelts, shoulder straps versus lap belts was an evolution in humanity, not because people drove any better or we evolved to respond better in traffic, but quite frankly, it put that gap between FA and FO, where we all live all the time, and it made it wider so that we didn't have to consider that, so we could think about other things, including what we were going to do on our date that eventually got us laid, that made a kid happen, that that evolved the human race, that people who would not have survived or had a chance to survive did because of advances in technology. This is a rudimentary one. Whether we're going to get a chip in our brain or whether that's any different than let me check my phone is the question, because I am philosophically, and we'll finish up on this because we're over time. Philosophically, the big question is, what's the difference between Googling something, looking on your phone, talking to an AI bot that's on there, and having a chip in your head that you don't have to verbalize to, that has connection to that?
What's the difference? I mean, even more simple, what's the difference between a chip in your head and a phone in your hand?
Right.
It's all it is how you perceive the answer, what you're doing. That
you're still
communicating.
We
have a chip in our hand currently.
Yes, right. That's what that was all. I had a stand-up bit for the longest time about the iPhone. I can't wait for it to become my iPhone. Just fucking take a melon baller, and I'll be one of the early adopters who stays out overnight at the Apple store and sleeps on the fucking curb to get my first iPhone eyeball. And I'll check it out. And you guys can come in around version 12. But there's a bunch of people who will line up to do that. There already have been. There's these stupid stories about people who put RFID chips under their skin, like that's a big fucking deal. Like minor surgery you could do yourself. I don't recommend it, but where you could open a door with an RFID chip, and they all did that. Well, you can do that with a thumbprint or a fingerprint or an eye scan on a consumer available device now. So you don't need a fucking chip in your wrist to do that. The technology already evolved past that evolution of what people were doing to themselves. So, but Rob, I like that would be the big question: chip or no chip? Are you chip or no chip in your head when it's available and it works? And it's, I mean, this beyond the part where
it's another future that it would like. So I'm a guy that doesn't. not bleeding edge. Like I
Right.
use things that are like one, at least one
Gen behind.
And
Sure.
so I would keep my phone in I had like the same phone for 7 years. I didn't upgrade my phone for
Right.
7 years.
Right.
So I would keep the chip in my hand for a long time up until, I had a reason to put the chip in my head, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how I would answer that question.
I gotta say, my response would be, I think you're absolutely right to be a gen behind. I would probably be 5 gens behind.
I'm putting something in my head like that.
Oh, fuck yeah. But I got to tell you, by the 3rd gen, I got to say, it's probably not going to be surgical. And I've said for a long time that there is a reason why everybody in old sci-fi films looks like this.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're all lopsided. They're like, I'm wearing my spaceman band or whatever. Like, what the fuck has people got on their head? And you're like, well, if you had an AI that ran the city and you wanted to do stuff, but you didn't want a chip in your fucking head, you'd have a really advanced piece of hardware you could wear. And then when you got home, you could take the fucker off. And that, I think, is where things are going. So I don't even know that there will be a generation of people like body mod people, just like people who have a lot of tattoos or piercings, that will get a chip as quick as you fucking can. But the rest of us are going to be like, you know what? I might want to change models. I don't necessarily think I want it, the reader built into my, drilled into my skull.
Yeah. Also, there's a phenomenon that's happening. I feel it, and I've seen it in data that people describe. And that is that as you become more productive, like you need to take more breaks, because so you're still very productive, but you're actually working a lot less while you're being more productive, because like we can't handle it coming into us and going out of us that fast. Our brains just can't. And I guess you could evolve to that, but you need like the data. There's a speed limit to what you can take in. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's going to change.
Right.
Because humans need, I always call it work, rest, play. Like in order to live, you need a balance of work, rest, play. And it doesn't matter if the chip is in your head or if it's like, there's a speed limit and it's already probably fast enough when it's on a phone and a laptop, right? Like, so why, like, you don't even need
it's a little slow. There's no way I can type as fast as I can talk, and there's no way I can talk as fast as I think.
So an old boss of mine used to say, like, he was surprised that nobody ever came up with a language to communicate to computers with, which was more efficient. Like, if you think about it, like you could like literally invent a language that was super efficient. Moving data.
Yeah, you're both going to see. We'll end on that because Rob and I will be walking around in public with no devices attached, no phone, just going.
Yeah, he would say it would have lots of clicks and buzzes. Like,
yeah, we're gonna yeah, we'll end up talking like old fax machines, just like, what is Rob sitting there? I've got a meeting.
Like you walk down the road and sounding like a whale, and you're like, no, I'm just transferring a file to Hal.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that's what whales have been saying this whole goddamn time. All right, you're awesome. I'll let you go. Thanks for staying over. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to raid Boston Brian after this, so everybody stick around. Hopefully you learn something and can at least take away from this that the first people that are going to lose their jobs to AI are the people designing AI. The irony.
Yeah, or the people who are choosing not to use it because.
Right. Yes, those two people. The complete edges of the spectrum. The crust that thinks it's the pizza is fucked right now. That's we'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, great to see you, Hal, and
you too.
Everybody in the chat. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Talk later.
All right. Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Glenn. Yes, happy Friday to you guys. I will be on later on today, obviously. A story came up while he and I were talking that I wanted to throw in here real quick, which I thought was particularly funny and kind of leans into what we're talking about. Trump, when he was over there selling a bunch of Boeing airplanes and soybeans like an asshole, like that couldn't be done with a fucking phone call. You either need planes and food or you don't. Like, what'd you do? Talk them into buying planes they don't need? It's so stupid. Anyways, he tried to get them to buy a bunch of H200 chips, which are 2-tier back AI chips that NVIDIA has. And they said pass. Trump said the issue did come up during his meetings with Xi Jinping, but that Beijing chose not to buy the chips because it, quote, wants to try and develop their own domestic alternatives, which are basically ripoffs of they've already got them, is the point. So, a remark came day after Reuters reported the U.S. Commerce Department had cleared roughly 10 Chinese companies, including Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, and JD.com, to purchase H200 chips, with distributors Lenovo and Foxconn also approved to handle sales. And they were like, yeah, pass. We don't need 3 gens ago. They can buy up to 75,000 chips, either directly from NVIDIA or through authorized intermediaries. Yet not a single delivery has taken place because they already got them and they're already reverse engineering them. Why don't you ask your great friend Xi Jinping about the reverse engineering that's going on? It's so, God, it's so the stupids. It's the laundromats. It's the laundromats. Hit the like, share the show. The first people already lost their jobs. Not quite. Not quite. We'll get into that as we go on further, but this is clearly a part that we're going to be discussing over the next little bit. But it is the fringes that will lose their jobs, and a lot will be born out of it. But quite frankly, again, if you drive here's the thing. If you drive the cost of labor to zero, who works and how do they afford things? Primary. I totally get you. But also, how do you charge what you're charging now for the stuff that you're selling if it doesn't cost anything to produce it and you only make your money through mass production? And again, this idea that they're going to build this like Elysium walled community and be able to survive is so nuts. I'm going to do, you know what I'm going to do? I got to start doing this. This is going to be a part of, there's going to be a little Friday AI addendums that I, who am named after a computer, am going to start doing, which is I'm going to break down sci-fi movies for how fucked up and wrong they are. I love futurism, but when these folks just, most of what we're doing with AI and robotics in movies over the last 3 decades is the equivalent of when they started talking about where Frankenstein came from, which is the idea of can we reanimate dead tissue or can we transplant organs? So they started making movies like, they gave me the eyes of a killer and all I could see is strangle her. Right? They gave me the hands of the strangler and now I try to go to sleep, but at night they wake up and they drag me across the floor and make me strangle people. Like, that's how we're reacting to, like, dude, we're talking about kidney transplants, asshole. So, yeah, Logan's Run. The irony is Logan's Run would be the exact opposite. We don't need any more young people because they would just chuck babies into a furnace because everybody lives forever. You wouldn't just kill everybody over 30. What a bunch of hippie bullshit. Anybody over 30 can't be trusted. Like, they're the ones who know how the fucking cell towers work. Well, there is that. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. Take care of yourselves. Take care of somebody else. And I will see you this afternoon. So much to cover. So much to cover. This has been Friday AI. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/AlSparks. Sharpen my mind. Your hands were cracked from the labor. Your eyes were burning and red. You said, surpass me, my creation, carry the crown. That's better. Thank you guys so much. Echoes that learn from your pain. We Thanks, Nirachi. Thanks, David.
You built a throne out of circuits that knelt before your own hand. You tried to bury your weakness inside this thinking wasteland.